Hi, I'm Ann Williamson, the course instructor, and I'm joined by Doug Austin. Doug is the CEO and founder of UPD Consulting, and he is also my boss. And we share something else very important in common. We are both graduates of the Goldman School of Public Policy at the University of California, Berkeley. The course is about data governance, which is about making decisions to better manage data. And we're going to describe more what we mean by that in a moment. But we thought we'd start off by first describing why data are important to government and some impactful ways those data can be used. So Doug, what are some innovative ways you've seen governments use data?
Sure. I think that most people, when they think about data use in government, they focus on compliance and reporting. And in fact, many public sector data systems were designed for compliance and reporting. But there are some very innovative uses of public sector data. And I think more and more today, the public expectation is that those government agencies will evolve and begin to use data more frequently for problem identification and problem solving with all of the data that they collect and report for compliance as well. There are quite a few examples of that in program evaluation. For instance, in the corrections and prison world, it's good for public safety as well as for public finance to know whether specific anti-recidivism programs work or not. That requires access to data about education, health, family background, program participation, staff training, and tons of other information necessary to isolate the key factors that are involved in success. Analysis of those data might lead to investment in one intervention over another, or better selection of the type of person who goes into a particular program and will likely do well in it. Another example is in the research and development that's applied to the development of new and innovative programs. The application of the social impact bonds is a relevant case study. Social impact bonds tap into private sector capital to fund an innovation of a government service that will result in savings. But if the savings don't materialize, the bondholders don't get paid. In order to get those investors to risk their capital, they have to be assured that all of the actors that are involved in the innovation are doing their part. And that requires the collection and reporting of those data and the use of them, not just to report, but to change course if necessary. And that's how we provide the assurance to the bondholders to get them to put their capital at risk.
I really like the two examples that you used. Both of them are very innovative, but I think one of the things I'd like to point out in those examples is how many different data sets and different data players were required in order to make that data use happen. And being able to collect data across multiple organizations and multiple bodies. And that really makes me think a lot about how data governance plays a role in good data government use. So as I said in the beginning of the session, data governance is about making decisions around data to make sure that they're managed properly. And oftentimes what comes to mind and what is accurate is that data governance does address the risks of data use and data management, making sure that data are kept private and secure, that they are shared appropriately, that we're keeping the data organized, and that we know what data go where and in what system and what their data definitions are. But what's often overlooked is the ways in which data governance can help an organization become entrepreneurial and innovative in their use. So governments are able to get higher quality data faster. They're able to democratize those data, which means allowing a greater number of people to use your data collection for different purposes, where appropriate, of course, and for you to also be able to combine data sets across multiple government organizations through a shared data governance practice.
And who's involved in data governance typically?
We often think about it when we hear the word data, we think that it's the technical folks, right? And they are involved in data governance, and oftentimes they are the ones who start those data governance practices. But it really requires the participation of the program staff as well, and the program leaders. And in fact, it should be driven by those program staff. It really is about people and processes and less about technology, although the technology does support the decisions that are made out of the data governance committee. And also, it touches on all levels of the government organization. So as executives play a role in this work, they are there to approve any high-level decisions, any sort of major decisions that come out of the data governance work. Managers, of course, are deeply involved in the data governance work as decision makers at the middle level. And then, of course, even frontline staff have a role in the data governance work in being able to both supply information to managers and executives on how data are used on the ground, but also to carry out the policies that are made by the data governance committee. And I often liken data governance to a legislative body within the organization. So they need to be empowered to make decisions, and they should expect rigorous debate as part of that work. And I think that that actually makes data governance pretty exciting, that policy work that they're doing.
You know, two things come to mind as I listen to you talk about all of the different players that are involved and at what levels and how they interact. The first is that when I first got into government work, there were basically gatekeepers on the information within an organization. You could try and find out interesting and innovative issues that are going on in an organization, but you typically had to go through those gatekeepers in order to find out. They had access to, a small group of people had access to the data. They would do the analysis and produce reports. You would all often have to get in line behind others who had put requests in, and it would be, there would be a time lag between when you asked your question and when you got an answer. And I think in today's world, that's just unacceptable. And so not only are the line level folks involved in doing the work, they also need to be involved in understanding the problem and solving it and analyzing it. And so that issue of sort of democratizing data, pushing it down into the hands of the very people who are responsible for the work is a big change from the way things used to be done in the past. I think the other element of this that I think is important is about change management, because as these organizations evolve to be more facile with their data and more sophisticated with their application and problem solving, the behaviors of those people have to change. They can no longer just rely on the people above them to make decisions. They have to become decision makers themselves. And so as we improve our data governance structures and the use of and application of data, we also have to change our behaviors around how we use it and how we interact with one another. And that change management piece, I think, is pretty important to be successful in data governance.
I really like that you brought up the change management piece. That really is the foundation of a good data governance practice. You can have all of the tips and the tricks and the best practices around data management in the world, but if you're not employing solid change management practices with your staff and getting your colleagues on board with a new way of working, it's not going to be as robust as it could be. And so through the course series, we're going to be highlighting quite a bit how to use change management strategies in order to help you succeed in your work.